Welcome to this episode of the Modern Day Missionaries podcast. Today we're talking with my friends Jonathan and Amanda Vining, who have been missionaries in Medellin, Colombia for nearly a decade. And we're talking about the nuances of vision today. I mean, as missionaries, we all get vision, right? Because you have to have a vision to go on the field to begin your missionary journey. And we all do that in different ways. Some of you guys you're the dreamers. You like to think big picture. Some of you are the ones who like to think in details. But no matter what type you are, we all are the type where when you bring that vision onto the field and it hits reality, you go, okay, are we really doing this? Is this working? And there's times where we encounter things that cause us to have to shift and change, not necessarily the heart of what God's given us to do, but the details of how we walk it out. So we talk about that today. We talk about practically walking out vision, discerning vision, how to communicate well to your supporters when things shift and change while you're on the field. You're going to love talking with Jonathan and Amanda because they are so down to earth, so real. So for any of you who are discerning vision right now or wondering what's next for you in life or hitting some roadblocks in your walking out your vision on the field, you're really going to get a lot out of today's conversation. And make sure to stay with us all the way till the end because Jonathan and Amanda have a special invitation just for you missionaries. So with that, let's dive into today's episode with Jonathan and Amanda Vining. Hey, Jonathan and Amanda, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have you guys back.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We just we love getting a chance to talk to you and share our story a little bit. So,
and you guys are modern day missionaries, so you're speaking to us straight from the mission field. This is real. This is raw. This is uncut. This is Jonathan and Amanda.
This is us.
Okay, and we're talking on this subject that can feel kind of big and heavy, vision and walking it out and discerning it. And I love that we're talking about it with you guys because you are some of the most down-to-earth, practical, sometimes a little crazy people I know. And so I feel like you're going to help make this topic that's really big, really real.
Yeah, it's just when we speak about this, it's just from experience. It's from what the Lord has revealed to us, what we've walked through. So it's a little bit of just, hey, our life, our story, and this is how it worked for us, and this is what we've seen the Lord do. And I think that's the easiest way we can explain, this topic of vision,
Yeah, and you guys have been through multiple iterations of this. And you've been in the field how many years now?
Like nine
yeah,
years.
Well, we've been missionaries pretty much for 9 years, full-time missionaries for 9 years.
Yeah. Praise the Lord.
Yes.
Seven here in Medellin.
Yeah.
Seven years in Medellin and a year in Lima, Peru. So.
Yeah. And so moving multiple places and then just the amount of time that you've had serving, it's not like you got one vision. God gave you one vision and then you went on the field and you walked out that vision. That's not really what life looks like.
Not at all.
Right?
No, but it's like... It's kind of how it started, right? It's like, okay, we have a vision to do this. Let's go, and then you start to fill this vision with your ideas of what it is and what your expectations are. And that's not the best way to go after it usually.
Yeah.
That's such a good point because God gives us all initially a vision to get there, to take that first step. And then it's so interesting how things change and evolve over time. And, sometimes as a missionary, you live in different places like you guys and just walk out that vision in different ways. Can we talk for a second, you guys, about kind of the difference between and maybe the intersection of passion and vision?
Yeah, I think that the passion, for example, for us, like God gave us the passion to be missionaries. He gave us the passion to reach the lost. But the vision didn't seem important, right? The passion was to reach the lost was the most important thing. And then, you start going through the process, you start going through the movements and the passion just kind of, it overwhelms the vision. And the vision sometimes isn't even there because sometimes it's not even talked about. It's just like, oh, you're going to go do this job. But just like a job, like, is that the vision of what God really wants for you? So for us, God called us to Peru. That was, the vision, so we spent a year raising support. We did all the things. We met with all the people. We went to language school. We went to missionary training. We get to Peru, and it just kind of fizzled out. The ministry we were supposed to do was in a financial crisis. And so we get there in about, 2-3 months, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, what you came to do, you can't do anymore. So then it was like all this time we had worked and prayed and cried over this position. And we were like, God, what are you doing in this whole process?
Yeah. And a lot of that comes so a lot of what happened, the Lord did bring us there for a reason, but we let our passion kind of trick our minds into being like, well, we're going to be here for the rest of our lives. This is going to be great, in one place, this and that. And then the bottom kind of drops out. So you're like, okay, take a step back, what happened? But it was a place where the Lord had to bring us to really develop our character, to teach us things, to learn things about who he is, learn things about what he wanted us to do. And to realize that we can't just be driven by passion. Passion is important, but really what should drive us is our relationship with God and what he wants us to do.
Yeah, and that's something that's going to stay consistent because your vision, all of that's going to change. There's something that got you there. How do we keep these visions from being these big out there dreams that never make it into the practical and the doable?
I mean, I think part of, I do like having when the Lord gives you a vision that a lot of times it's going to be big. It's going to be something that's going to make you a little bit nervous,
Yeah.
But keeping it practical, I think, is the day-to-day, okay, what does it look like today for me to do what the Lord wants me to do in this situation? What does it look like for me today to take that step of faith or to revisit what we've been doing, or another thing is, okay, so what, another question you can ask yourself is, where's the fruit? Is this fruitful? Is this something that's going to work? So I think there's a couple different things, and I think we'll probably get into a lot of this stuff as we go on today, that really kind of help us look at this vision that the Lord's given us, and how do we stay on track, and how do we interpret kind of things that are going on in our lives at the same time.
Yes.
But, and something about that, so the Lord called us to this really big vision to open this home here in Colombia for missionaries and pastors where they can rest, and it seemed like this lofty, impossible vision, dream. And so something that we started to do that really just made it more practical was the day-to-day. Okay, so if we were to buy a home, what would that look like? Can we find a realtor? Can we get a visa for investment? Well, how much do we need to spend on the house? How many bedrooms do we want? There's so many pieces to the vision that to make it more like a manageable thing, it has to be small chunks, small daily things to make it like a reality. Because when it's up there, it seems impossible. It seems like, oh my goodness, the Lord has called me to this thing that I'm just I can't even imagine becoming a reality. But once you start walking through the steps of the little things, it just becomes more and more real, to the point where you actually look back and you're like, whoa, how did that just happen? But it really takes work on our part to walk out the vision.
Talk about that tension between planning things out and then needing to make adjustments as you actually walk it out.
That is missionary life.
It's and I talk about this a lot, but it's all a lot of it's just being surrendered, right? It's like, Lord, your will be done, not mine.
Yeah.
And if you approach days like that, if you approach problems like that or situations like that arise, it's all right, Lord, you've got a plan here.
Yeah.
It's not what I thought was going to happen, but you've got a plan. And then a lot of times, if you approach it with that, in that attitude of surrender and all right, what you want, Lord, not what I want all the time, then when you get through whatever you're going through, whatever change or whatever thing, something the bottom drops out of something, then in the future, you'll look back and be like, that's why that happened.
Mm-hmm.
That is why that happened. And the Lord will
Mm-hmm.
give you revelation on that. And really, a lot of times it'll build your character like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, really, and it also takes a ton of humility. A ton of humility to really just not be working for God, but be working with God, partnering with Him in the vision. So the vision looks like this in my little mind, in my humanity. I want it to happen in a year, right? But that's my vision. That's not me working with God. That's me working, for God. So when I partner with God in my vision, he gives me clarity. Like he shows me, okay, well, this is the reason why this isn't happening in your time frame. This is the reason why I need to slow things down, because maybe, your family is going through a crisis in the moment, so I need to take care of my family right now. And I'm going to just kind of put this on hold for a minute. And it really just is that intimacy with God, the humility, and also just, working with God, partnering with Him in the vision.
That's such a great distinction, Amanda, the with God, for God. Because if it's for God, it is. There's this distance. You picture yourself working for a boss and doing what they tell you to do. But with is, like you said, that intimacy, that hand in hand, like we are doing this together. And it opens you up to hear from Him in ways that you would not have otherwise. And it just makes it more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're doing this together. This is me and you. I mean, God, obviously you're in charge, please, because I don't want to be in charge. But we're doing this together.
Well, and it takes the pressure off, I'm like, this, especially when the vision is really big and you're like, there is no way that this is going to happen if God doesn't come in and do something big. In some ways, it's like, okay, there's, the pressure's taking off, like, because you're working with God in this. It's not completely up to you, and He's going to have to make it happen.
So you want us to raise how much money?
Yeah.
How much money do we need to get,
yeah,
to invest here, to
Yeah.
to get a visa? It's like
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and those impossibilities sometimes manifest quickly, like in miracle stories. We all have seen those.
Oh yeah.
And then there are ones where they're like decades, and you're like, Jesus, like, did I hear correctly from you?
Yeah.
Are we doing this? Am I supposed to hang in here?
Yeah.
Was this a vision or was this a pizza dream? I mean, have you guys had any missionary pizza dream equivalents of like, I don't know that was really from the Lord?
Yeah, I mean, even just our journey to Peru. Like we get to Peru and the floor, drops out from under us, and we're like, okay, was this me? Was this God? Like, what is going on? And
yeah, sometimes you think about it. Okay, what did I do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Why isn't this working? What did I do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, it's just like the Lord closing a door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you need to be aware of those situations at the same time. You get these big lofty dreams, and then you try to walk them out, and it's just not working. It's like not working, and you're like, okay, maybe that door's closed, but it's not necessarily my fault or something that I did. It's just the season has passed, and now it's time to move to a different season.
Absolutely.
And that's a great thing to distinguish between, because there are some times where like we screw up. We know it. Like we come to realize that like, God, you didn't actually tell me to do that. That was my own ego, or that was just something I wanted and I just tried to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's humility in going like, sorry, you're so graceful, God. Let's start this over.
Yeah.
And there are times like what you guys were referencing, like when you went to Peru the first time, or I know we've had moments like this in our journey too, where He takes us to one place and like, you heard from Him. You even had like confirmation from people, and you go and you get there and you're like, what? Like, why is this door closing? I don't even understand. And it's like He takes you one place to get you to another place.
Yeah.
Like there's so many instances in our story. Like I remember He had us plant a church before we went to Peru. Peru was not on the horizon, but I had been so completely ingrained and immersed in my community. And I know He needed to get us to Peru. He would have never gotten us to Peru had He first not gotten us out and had us church plant and go through that process to kind of begin to detach and grow a bunch of things in us and become more independent, to be able to get to that point. Not that it was just about that next step. He does something in that second step. I was just talking to another couple, 2 weeks ago. They had a similar thing where God brought them to one place and it just felt like this really difficult season. And they're like, that was about this and also about that, but also about this. So God kind of like divinely hoodwinks us sometimes, you know, and it's a good thing. Like I think he just does it because he knows we'd never do the next step otherwise. Like, I got to get you here to go there. Just trust me. I know it doesn't make sense. And we don't know in that moment, we're just stepping out in obedience. So I'm just curious for all of our listeners, like, what was a moment like that for you where God brought you to one place? It was totally confusing. You didn't know what it was about. And then later on in life, you look back and go, okay, I see what you were doing there. Or maybe you don't even yet. You just know it was him. And like, it's going to be another couple decades before you understand that particular season of life.
Yeah. And I think also a big piece is like, you're not always going to understand what's going on in the moment. No. And that's so important to know. Like, if you're going through a difficult season and you're like, gosh, God, I don't understand. What are you doing? Why is this door closing? Why are you moving me to another place? I don't understand. Sometimes it's just that act of obedience to just move into that place, knowing that the Lord is calling you there, and later you'll figure it out. So for us, is that Peru season so difficult. Like, we didn't understand what was going on. I went through a severe depression, like really bad. And a lot of it, I think, had to do with the fact that I was so caught up in this vision, but really I wasn't partnering with God in this. I was working for God. And so my identity was like, okay, well, I'm lost now. I'm here in Peru. I have no community. I can barely speak the language. I'm like suffering. And now, we see now why God brought us to that desert season of Peru.
Yeah, it was to prepare us for the next season. Really, that's what it was, and that's the big thing in the biggest examples that we can come up with is like, man, like God brought us to Peru to die, pretty much, to die to our expectations, to die to what we thought we needed to be, to die to ourselves, really. And once we were that broken, then he's like, okay, now it's time to move you on. So we moved here to Medellin, and then we look back and we're like, yeah, that's exactly why we're there. We weren't ready to be here in Medellin. Not our character wasn't ready. Our intimacy with the Lord wasn't at a place where it needed to be. Like, we weren't, 100% sure on how to hear the voice of the Lord all the time, So all these things that we had to learn through this season to prepare us for what we're doing now.
And those seasons are so deeply humbling. I mean, you can see why like humble and humiliate have the same word there, because they're humiliating a little bit at times too, in the sense that you're communicating this back to supporters and to supporting churches or organizations. And you were so fired up about your vision because you knew, and because it was what God was calling you to do. And you went, and then you're like, and we're totally changing everything.
There's another thing now that we need to tell you about that isn't quite what we told you about before.
And there's another piece in that is that your churches in the States, your supporters are not all going to understand what's going on.
No.
They're not going to understand what the Lord is doing in you, because that's your journey. That's our journey with the Lord. We can try and explain it all we want. And a lot of people, I would say most people do get it. Most people understand, or they want to understand, but then there's going to be people that don't. And you have to have such a tight relationship with the Lord and trust in the vision that he's given you, that even when there's doubters, you're like, it's okay. I'm going to be okay. I mean, we were going through that really hard season. Somebody reached out to me. They're like, it seems like you guys are on a year-long vacation. And I was like, I'm so upset.
You're like, Jesus, help me not to punch this person.
But that's just the reality. It's just the reality of what missionaries go through, because, moving overseas and what we do is really impossible to understand if you have not done it. So.
We're crazy. We're crazy people.
Yeah, we are.
You got to live the crazy to really understand the crazy.
Yeah.
And yet there is this responsibility in a sense to communicate it with supporters. So let's talk about that for a second. What were some ways that you guys were able to, the best you can, communicate that shift in vision with people?
Yeah.
Well,
The best that we could. I'm sorry.
Well, I think one of the things that we, from early on in our missionary journey, was, a wise old missionary told us, like, listen, walk through the doors that the Lord opens for you, and close the, and don't try to bust open the doors that are closed. And we made that, we talked to our supporters about that all the time. That was one of the foundations of this passion that the Lord has put in us. Okay, what doors are open and what doors are closing. And what kind of helped us is that what the Lord had called us to do wasn't an option anymore. Like, we couldn't do it, what he's called us to do, and that was a little bit easier for us to explain to supporters. It's like, listen, what he called us to do isn't an option. But there are, we're working with our missions agency, we're working with these people, we're working with people to figure out, what the next step is and what that looks like. So you just honest, that's all you can do is just be honest with them and say, listen, and then when you get a word from the Lord, or you've developed something, with your missions agency or with your sending church or whatever it might be, to like establish a new mission, establish a new area, you just tell people. And I think a lot of what helps is through these difficult changes or transition, where's the fruit? There's always going to be fruit. If you're following the Lord and you're doing what he wants you to do, there's going to be some fruit in your life, and proof of what you're doing is for the Lord. People are going to see that fruit. And when they see that fruit, they're going to be like, yeah, these people are on the right track.
And sometimes the fruit isn't an outward thing to other people. Sometimes the fruit is what's happening inside of you. And that's really necessary. To be a missionary is so necessary for the Lord to be working in you, and for the Lord to be constantly, the constant growth. And it's interesting, it's something I see is like when God puts you in a missionary life and you're humble and you're working with him, he's going to be breaking down things in you that aren't good. He's going to be, constantly moving you to have a relationship closer with him, if you allow that, right? Which you should be. And in that, there's going to be so much brokenness. But it's like the broken, and then you grow, and then you're broken, and then you grow, and you keep growing and growing and growing to the point where you're like, wow, I have matured way faster than I ever would have in another situation. Yeah. And so, but something that, really practically something that we do is we always send out newsletters once a month. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. We're we try to be transparent in our, this is something that we're struggling with. This is something that we need prayer for. Can you guys, wrap us in prayer for this particular thing? And then we go back to the States every 2 years, and we visit churches, and we visit our supporters. And this is this routine that we have going on. And some people can do it less, some people can do it more. So this is something that's worked really well for us to keep the communication and the relationship, to keep that open, and so that they feel like they can ask us questions if they don't understand. And sometimes they won't understand. But really, for the most part, most of our supporters in churches, really just, they want to partner with us and what we're partnering with God in. Yeah. And in that, they really try to.
It's just the testimony, right? It's the testimony in your letters, in your communication. It's the testimony of what the Lord's doing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you can't really, that's like such a key part with your communication. It's like, listen, the Lord's called us to do this. Look at what he is doing through us, and people will be like, wow, that's great. Yeah. That is unbelievable. Yeah. And they'll be as shocked as we are.
Right? Okay. I love what you both just shared there, because you kind of touched on that authenticity in your communication. And something I've seen missionaries do that can throw supporters off is communicate only depressive things or only hype things. So like only like, here's what the amazing things God is doing and amazing, 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 while they're like dying on the inside. And then all of a sudden they crash or they change or they're sensing a transition's coming, but they don't say anything. And then suddenly, boom, there's a transition. And their supporters are like, say what? Like, I thought everything was like this. Or then on the flip side, it's, you know, it's always like, you know, it's just tragedy. It's a newsletter of the tragedies. And like, that is also very, I think, difficult to buy into. But like you said, when you can be honest about the positive things, like Jonathan, you said, always tell those stories of testimonies, whether it's just a story of one person, whatever is going on in your life, whether it's a story like Amanda, you said, of what God's doing on the inside of you, that's significant. And then also you talked on the frequency of communication, which I think is so important too. Like you guys do it monthly, and maybe somebody can't do it monthly, but they can do it with a degree of frequency. So again, if something is changing in your ministry, if something's happening, it doesn't hit them out of the blue. So bring them in on the positive, exciting, fruitful stories. And if you're having a rough time, be honest about that too. And if they can't take some of that honesty, maybe they're not a great supporter for you. And that's freaky for us to say because we need our support team. But you need people who believe, like you said, Amanda, in you, not just in what you're doing, but in you. And they're willing to walk with you through the ups, through the downs. And sometimes people are just called to be with you for a season. And when you shift they need to shift as well. And that's okay. But yeah, that communication piece is just huge. So thank you guys for touching on that, because we need clarity in the vision. And we need to be able to communicate that vision.
I mean, if you think about it, you know, the reason that we can partner with God is because people are partnering with us. And if we're not communicating back and forth, and I know a lot of people are like, I just don't have time to communicate with my supporters. I don't have time to this and that. Make time. You just have to. It has to be a priority. And if it's not a priority, it's going to affect your fundraising. It's going to affect your community with the people from the United States. It's all like works together in the missionary life.
And it's always good to like I said, like these letters or this communication is a testimony of what the Lord's doing.
Right.
It's the testimony. It's to testify how good he is, what he's working on, not only in your day to day, but in you, you know, and that's something you can share too. Because some of our letters is like, hey, listen, you know, the Lord's been working on this in our lives, and you know, we're going to share this with you. We're going to be honest with you because it's something that's good for us.
Yeah.
Now we want you to believe in us for that, you know.
Right. And I would say there are things that you don't need to share. I think that there's like this intimacy piece that maybe some things aren't necessarily supposed to be out there in a newsletter. When I was going through the depression, I didn't throw it out there, hey guys, I'm depressed and I'm struggling. Why? Because it's not, a lot of them might feel a little bit helpless. How can I help Amanda? What do we do? Does she need to go back to the States, do that? But in that, I had a group of people that was helping me through that season, like a smaller, intimate group, you know? So it's like, there are definitely things that you should share and there's things that you shouldn't share. But, you know, I just think, you know, transparency, authenticity, you know, making sure that, you know, we're just being our real selves to people is really important.
But that's a really good distinguishing thing that you said there, Amanda. Not everything's for the newsletter. Yes, all of your really, really big, heavy stuff doesn't belong in there because that could be forwarded on to somebody else. I mean, there's private stuff in there. So what of that? It's figuring out what of that is good for everybody to know. And what of this is really for that smaller, intimate group of people, like you said. Right. And those people might be able to speak into your vision. I mean, as you're working to get clarity, because that's a big piece in all this too. You have this vision, but it can't just stay in this big space. We got to bring it down to the practical. And when you've got those people praying with you and believing with you, those are also people who might be able to speak into what that says. I mean, we've had people give us words where we're like, oh my gosh, that brings so much clarity to this particular piece of what, you know, we were looking at. So it is good to think, who can I invite in on a closer level to this piece? I want to so you guys recently have been through this vision casting process, walking it out with Harvest House. So I'd love to even just talk about what that has looked like for you guys as you've walked this out recently.
Well, actually, your husband was a big part of that, actually.
That's
getting
right.
it started, because him and Marvin came to visit us, and we're just sitting in our living room having coffee, and we were talking about our visa issues. Like, oh, we've got these visa. We don't know what we're going to do. You can't really get a religious visa here anymore. And out of my mouth comes, oh, I wish I just could buy some property and get an investor visa. And the first thing that came out of Marvin and Danny's mouth was, that's a great idea. I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
No, it's not. I told the Lord I never wanted to buy another house. So that's kind of how it started, was just this, that's a great idea. I'm like, well, if people think this is a great idea, I just kind of threw it out there as a wish list kind of thing. And then we're like, okay, so what does that look like now? How much do we need to invest? Like all these questions, and
it was interesting because I feel like once Marvin and Danny said, that's a great idea, it opened up this like something that the Lord had been placing on our heart for a little while. But we were like, that seems impossible. Is this really from the Lord? And I think that's where it's like, it was like, we're going to put out this fleece, right? We're going to put out this fleece and see if this is really what the Lord is doing. It felt, for us, it felt like the Lord was really in it, but we had to contact our supporters. And it was interesting. I was like, I had this dream, and I said to Jonathan, so we had to raise $125,000.
That was the goal. So
that was the goal.
Yeah. $125,000, huge number.
Wow.
People work like, some people I know work like 3 or 4 years, and they don't even make that kind of money.
Yeah.
And the Lord's asked us to do this huge number. So that was the challenge. That was where this fear starts creeping in. But then we're like, all right. Our prayer was always, Lord, if this is your vision, then you're going to provide it. You're going to have to show us how to do it, because
it seems impossible.
I feel like our financial supporters, we've already tapped them all out.
Yeah.
Like there's no more there. There's no more resources there,
Yeah. So it's interesting that the Lord gave me a dream, and the Lord, I woke up in the middle of the night. I was like, I feel like the enemy was like, what are you doing? Opening up a home, and this is never going to work. You don't have enough money that you're going to fail, And then the Lord was like, I want you to try to raise $30,000 in 30 days. And so we started communicating with our supporters, communication. We shared the vision. We had shared the vision with them already. Then the second newsletter, we said, hey, we are praying for $30,000 in 30 days. I think in a week we had $12,000. And we were like, okay, God, I think that you're in this. And then we met with a supporter, and she's like, oh, by the way, before you send out the $30,000 in 30 days, we had already decided we're going to give you $30,000. So that was on top of the $12,000. And it was like, if you want to talk about the fleece a little bit.
Yeah, like the confirmation, right? So then you're like, okay, the Lord's on it. So then we start to develop, okay, so what is this? Okay, so the vision, the property, what are we going to do with it? What is it going to be for? Because it's not going to be our second home. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is going to be a ministry property. It's not going to be, we're not going to live there, but we want it to be a place, and Lord put on our hearts to be a place of rest, a place for full-time Christian workers from around the world can come and use it for little to no cost, and just find rest, find some time to just be intimate with the Lord, to maybe reconnect with the vision that he's given you. And he explained that, and he like laid out this huge thing, and we were like just dreaming with him about what we wanted the property to be, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, where we wanted it located, just dreaming. And so, okay, so the time comes, the money's coming in, and all right, let's start looking at country homes. So the what we're looking for is a home outside of the city of Medellin in the mountains. Just a country home's the best way. Here they call them fincas, but the best way to explain it is a country home. A house with a little bit of property, trees, and beautiful views of the Andes Mountains. So anyway, we the money started coming in, so we're like looking for places online, and we found a realtor, and then so we started looking, and that was like in October. We started raising money in like June, and then October we started looking, and not all the money is the money came in. Not all the money came in, so the realtor was like, "Listen, you need to just like houses are just gonna be gone before you can look at it, find something you like, and if you don't have the money, it's gonna be gone." So we're like, okay. So we kind of put looking on hold, and then, well, Amanda, Amanda had another dream.
I had another dream. The Lord speaks to me in dreams sometimes. And really, the Lord speaks to a lot of people in dreams if you are paying attention. But we had stopped looking, and so we were still short about $25,000. And the Lord woke me up. He said, "Start looking for properties again." And so in February, it's a Sunday morning. I'm looking at properties, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm looking at properties." He's like, "Why?" I'm like, "Because the Lord told me to." And he's like, "Okay," And that afternoon, we got an email from a supporter that said, "Hey, I'm going to cover the rest."
Yeah, at the end of the email was like, at the end of February, let me know how much you're short,
and I'm going to cover it,
and I'll cover the rest.
And then that week, the realtor contacted us, "Hey, I have this place. I want you to come see it."
Well, we had found a place that we wanted to look at too.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, we'll look at the place that you like," but she's like, "I have a place that I think you're going to like."
Yeah. So we went and we saw both places. We saw the first place. We're like, "This is okay." The one that we wanted. And we're like, we went and saw, we're like, "This is okay. We can make it work. There's not a view. We really wanted a view. It's a little small.
But it was very private. It was good. It was a nice place.
And then she took us to this place, and it was way more than we could have imagined.
Absolutely. Wow. And like, that's part of the vision, right? Like part of the vision is, like we talked about, like forcing your own hand, right? Like forcing, okay, these are the houses that we like. These are the ones that fit in our criteria, right? Let's go look at these. And then out of nowhere, right, our realtor's like, "I've got a place for you to look at." We didn't even know about this place. Yeah. That's how good God is, right? Wow. Like, faithful. Like, that's how good he is. He's like, it wasn't even on our radar. And she takes it to this place, and the crazy, like, and this is my fleece story, because we loved it. We absolutely loved the place. Checked all the boxes. Actually, unbelievable. But we went and looked at it the first time, and there's like this bird I've never seen before in one of the trees. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And I'm like, "Lord, is that a sign?" That's it. I was just like,
"You're looking, man, when you're going to make a purchase like that."
I was like, there's
so then, a big decision.
There's a big decision. So then then we're like, we like it. Let's take two people, like our pastor and then another missionary friend, people that we confide in. Let's take them, look at it together, see what they think. And then on the way there, I'm just praying. I'm like, "Hey, Lord, if I could see that bird again while we're there, I know this is you." And wouldn't you know,
there was the bird.
Get there, same bird, different tree, but same bird I've never seen before. There it is. And I'm just like, okay, because like $125,000 of other people's money is a lot of money. So it's like, I don't want to mess this part of it up, Lord. Like I need the place. And then just after that, after we bought it, like after we got the real estate in motion and buying and purchasing it, all that stuff in motion, like the Lord even started doing crazier stuff. Like, we didn't have, we were spending $125,000, and that's how much it costs. We didn't have extra money for furnishings, like nothing like that. And we're just like, all right, the Lord can provide it. Well, the people who sold it left everything there.
Everything.
Every single thing there. So now we're getting into territory where it's above and beyond whatever what we could ask or imagine at this point, where it's just like every single thing is there. Yeah. And I always tell this story how like I felt like the Israelites when they left Egypt, and the Egyptians are just giving them all this gold and everything and all their possessions to go, to the promised land. And I'm just like, my goodness.
Well, and I see you guys as people who have stewarded vision well over the years. Like on many different occasions, God's put things in your heart and you've walked them out faithfully. And there is a reward to faithfulness, and that's more responsibility. Thinking of the talents, and I feel like God just gave you guys an extra talent. He's like, hey, you did what I asked you to do. So now I'm going to entrust you with more. And it's a big thing to have more responsibility. It's exciting, and it's also a weight, like you were talking about. So it's an encouraging story, I think, for people who are in that process of receiving the vision and beginning to walk it out. And I mean, what would you guys say to the missionary who are maybe still in the place where they're waiting for the vision to unfold? Maybe they've got a little bit of a word, but not a timeline or no details. How do they stay faithful in that kind of in between space?
Yeah. Sometimes I think that we have this, like, the Lord called me this vision. I'm just going to wait on him. I'm going to wait. And
he'll provide.
Yeah.
He's good. He's going to give us everything, which is true. Which is true. But, I think we need to be careful because, like, this next generation, I feel like sometimes, like, they just have a lot of stuff that's just given to them. And the Lord can do that. He can work in those ways. But really what he's looking for, and we've talked about this throughout the whole pod, is that, hey, he wants to partner with you. Mm-hmm. So if you get this vision or this partial word or it's just not clear, I think, first of all, just take baby steps towards it. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, Lord, if this is something that and pray in this way, pray, hey, Lord, if this is something you want me to do, I'm gonna go in this direction where I think you're leading me. Please confirm it. Mm-hmm. And he will. Mm-hmm. And he will. There'll be confirmation, but you have to be aware of those things. Mm-hmm. You can't just sit on your hands and expect the Lord to always, just because he really wants you to take those little steps of faith, because in order to reach the goal, right, in order to reach the vision that he has for your life, you need the journey to get there. And it's those little steps in that direction, and then you get a little confirmation. So then your faith is building, right? Mm-hmm. So then you take another little step. Oh, there's another confirmation. And then you're like, well, Lord, I feel like you're going over here. And, oh, wait, that door closed. So where do you want me to go next, Lord? Mm-hmm. Well, let's look in this direction. Or there's a door open here. Like, hey, let's walk through that. Let's see what the Lord has for us. And a lot of it just comes from living a life that's like surrendered, right? Yeah. That your ideas and your vision is surrendered to what the Lord wants for you and his vision and your life. Because he'll give you, like, your vision, what you want in your spirit. The Lord knows. Like, he knows what's in your spirit and what you want and what you desire.
And I think another piece of that is, like, we have our timeline of, that passion, right? Let's talk about the passion. So you get passionate about it, being a missionary. You're like, I got to go. I want to go now. I don't want to raise support. I don't want to learn the language. I don't want to go to training school. Oh man, one of the things that really annoyed me and us was, like, our missions agency, not Modern Day, a different one, required us to go to a missionary training school, and it was so expensive. Oh. It was so expensive, and we were like, why do we have to do this? We've got it all figured out. And then we go to the school, and we were like, oh my goodness, we have no idea.
What would we have done without the training?
Yeah, but our timeline was, I don't want to raise support. I want to do this. I'm just going to go. The Lord's going to provide. And I'm not saying that the Lord doesn't do that, because in some cases he does. Some cases you go and the Lord calls you to that. But sometimes, and I would say most of the time, it is so important to be fully funded, to have preparation, language learning. We had that missionary training that for us was vital. It was vital to our success and our longevity in missions. And so, yeah, sometimes, most of the time, our timeline doesn't line up with God's vision, but that's the whole idea of partnering with God, what he wants for us.
Yes, letting him take the lead and not trying to usurp that from him. Yeah. For sure, that's a challenge. Yeah. Okay, can missionaries come stay with you guys at Harvest House?
100%.
Absolutely.
Tell them how they can do it.
So we'll share the information, the link and everything. Medellin, come look. You have to look online. Medellin is one of the biggest tourism places in Latin America even. And it's beautiful. The weather is springtime year round. And this place, and we have testimonies from missionaries that have stayed there where it's really a place to just be quiet and encounter the Lord. And the testimonies are amazing. We're just hearing people say that they were just exhausted. They just needed a space away from the city. I mean, Medellin's a big city. So they just needed a space away to have that quiet and hear from the Lord. And the Lord is really working through us and this property to have people really have an encounter with him.
And also, if you go to Modern Day's website and you just search Harvest House, it's got its own dedicated micro web page, and it's got a lot of information on there. It's got pictures,
how to contact
us, frequently asked questions, and all kinds of goodies there that you can explore. And yeah, we'd love to have anybody come out here just to experience just what the Lord has for them, and a time of rest and rededication, and maybe like a revision or rebranding or whatever you need,
Yep. What a fun, happy note to end on. You are invited officially to go to Medellin. You guys, thank you so much for all that you do and just for sharing what the Lord's revealed to you guys about vision, about walking all that out in your years and all of the years you have ahead of you. So much more to learn as well. So appreciate you, Jonathan and Amanda. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Hey, missionaries, I've got a question for you. How are your finances on the field? Also, are you feeling supported by your senders? At Modern Day Missions, we make it simple for missionaries to receive donations and for their donors to give. As the largest independent missions organization in the U.S., we process donations from more than 1,100 missionaries to and from countries all over the world, helping them get on the field and freeing them to focus on what they're called to do. And we also create and connect missionaries to resources that help them flourish on the field, like this weekly podcast, fundraising coaching, and our resource-packed newsletter. So connect with us at modernday.org to explore our free resources and discover how we can serve you. We're so glad you joined us today.